Hey y'all, hey. How you doing? How you been? How's your day? Come, listen. So a lot of people is wondering like who is this lady on our screens? She keep posting stuff, but we don't know nothing about her. Well, hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Zena. I love to post videos about products. If you see my videos, you've seen them. Products, news, all types of news. And today's news is no better than the rest. So yes, I am trying to be a journalist, but then at the same time I'm in nursing school, so it's kind of like, yeah, but I love showing the news of what's going on in the world today. So I basically wanted to get on and give a description of myself and what I like to do. So today's stories about fathers circles around two fathers, one in the public eye, one not, who was not in the public eye. We let a lot be seen on TV with one family, and then we had to learn about what went on in another house with another family. But what is a father? A father is someone who's supposed to protect, someone is supposed to care, someone is supposed to love, someone that's not supposed to turn a blind eye to what the bad things going on around them in their house, to their children or to their wives, period. But these two cases really brought tears to my eyes, and I thought it would be the perfect two cases to talk about when it comes down to what is a father. Let's talk about it. So the first story surrounds a guy named Iman Moss. Mr. Iman Moss was the father of Imani Moss. If you have not read the story, let me break it down to you. Imani Moss is his daughter from a previous relationship that had to move in with him because she was given up to him from her mom because her mom was fighting an addiction that caused her to have to give up her rights. When Iman took his daughter in, of course you think, this is daddy's little girl. Can't no one mistreat daddy's little girl. No one. But it wasn't that case with Mr. Iman. He allowed his wife, Miss Tiffany Moss, to do any and everything to his daughter, even causing her demise. So let's get into it. So this is young Imani Moss. This was young Imani Moss. Thinking this would be a better place to live for her, young Imani, but it was nothing but terror awaiting her from the very beginning by her stepmom, Tiffany Moss. This is Tiffany Moss, the stepmom to Imani Moss. After getting married, Iman and Tiffany welcomed two kids into the world. And despite treating her kids like gold, she treated Imani very different. And when I say different, and I mean terribly different. And it was not a good outcome. This woman had no remorse, as you could
Execution characterized.
Though the mistreatment wasn't only just from Tiffany Moss, it was also from her dad, Iman. It wasn't as bad after a while from her dad. It was mostly from her stepmom. So in 2010, at the age of 6, when she had just gotten their care, she received a report card, and she was so terrified to go home to show this report card to her stepmom and her dad that instead of going home, she went to the school counselor and told the school counselor how terrified she was of them to even go home and tell them about the report card. During that time, Imani was examined, and multiple bruises were found on her body, resulting in an arrest of her stepmom, Tiffany, who later admitted to hitting a young girl for not finishing her homework. She was charged with child cruelty, and multiple people testified on what they found.
She told me she got in trouble by her stepmom, Tiffany Moss, for not doing her homework the previous night, and she was spanked with a brown leather belt.
Did she tell you how many times she'd been struck?
Several times. She had bruises and welts all over her body, to include her arms, chest, back, and legs.
All right. Did you document those injuries?
Yes, I did.
All right. Sergeant King, were those photographs taken at your direction?
Yes, they were.
And are they a true and accurate representation of the injuries that you observed on that child that day?
Yes.
So that testimony, along with other testimonies, led to the conviction in 2010. But instead of spending time in jail, Tiffany Moss was granted 5 years probation. influenced by the Georgia Division of Child and Family Services. See, this is my thoughts on this so far. So, not to keep stopping the video, I'm not going to do this too much. But that's a problem. And that's a problem with this system. Why do it take multiple things to happen to a child from an adult for y'all to do something? She should not have gotten probation. She should not have got. Once you put your hands on the child that kind of way and bruise them, you deserve you deserve the 5 years in jail. The fact that they granted her probation, that shouldn't have happened at all. I did not like that at all, because at the end of the day, that child could have been saved. But it gets no better than this. So after her 5-year probation sentence, Imani was then removed from her father and her stepmother's care and placed with her grandmother, Robin. But it was only for a short period of time. And I mean short, like 6 months. And the grandmother came out to testify for the little girl as well.
While she was there staying with you?
Yes, I took her to school every day, picked her up every day.
Did she remain at the same school that she had begun the school year out and then finished it out while she was there with you?
She did.
How was Imani doing in school at that particular time?
Well, she was with me, everything was approving, her grades, her action, and even she was just doing awesome, a lot better than she was, because they said she was closed in and she started having tantrums and screaming. So I don't know what was going on before then, but I know when she came back with me, everything calmed back down in her life.
And she stayed there with you then through the spring and the summer. Did she begin her school year still living with you there in 2010?
She was with me until school was over, and then after that, she was back with her father.
You said so she stayed about 6 months. So the beginning of the 2010 school year then, was she placed back with Iman and the defendant in this case?
Yes.
With regard to that, did you want, without going into a lot of detail, but did you want Imani to still remain with you and live with you at that time?
Yes, I did. I went and fought it.
And when you say you went and fought it, was that a decision that was made by the Department of Family and Children's Services?
Yes, it was.
That, was it their decision to place Imani back with the defendant, Tiffany Moss, and her dad, Iman Moss?
Yes, it was.
You indicated you did object to that. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. But ultimately, she did not stay living with you. She went back with the defendant and her dad.
Yes.
After that time in 2010, were you able to see Imani very often?
No.
Did you make efforts to try to see her from that fall of 2010 until ultimately she died?
Yes, I did.
Would you, what type of efforts did you make in order to try to talk to her or see her?
I called my son, and he would just say...
Can't tell me a lot about what Iman said, okay? But were you allowed to see her?
I was not allowed to see her.
So after returning to her dad's care from her grandma, who was clearly, as you could see, more stable enough and more patient enough to deal with Imani. After returning to her dad's care, Imani attempted to run away twice. Her first runaway was nearby a complex where she lived, where her dad lived, and told someone that Tiffany, her stepmom, had tied her up with a belt and forced her into a cold shower. Police was called, but yet, of course, nothing was done because in their eyes, too much of lack of evidence. The second time, she didn't make it far. She was found sleeping outside by the police and returned back to her home, even after telling them about the abuse. After a while, the father was barely home due to working multiple jobs, so the abuse kind of went away with him and then continued with the stepmom. And one time on Mother's Day, out of all the holidays, on Mother's Day, family noticed Imani's hair had been cut extremely short. The grandmother asked about why Imani was so skinny and why her hair was cut. And Tiffany responded in the most ignorant and arrogant way. If you act ugly, you should look ugly. So I make it my business not to go in on someone else's looks, okay? But the fact that she can come out her mouth and say that to another family member about that child, not caring, no care in the world about what she say about this child, and what blows my mind, okay? So, like I said, I don't bash, I don't talk about people, but at the same time, this lady should have been doing to herself what she was doing to Imani as far as her hair was concerned, because she's not all that hot looking herself. This is not a bashing site. I do not channel. I would never do this constantly. But for someone like this to make that kind of statement about a young child, and the fact that she had the audacity to even put her hands on her and cut her hair is what's mind blowing to me. But like I said, we're not gonna turn this into a bashing thing, because I don't like talking or hitting on nobody's looks. But that woman had a nerve, and she hit a nerve of mine. Okay, but let's continue. Unfortunately, that will be the last time Imani will be seen alive by anyone. By 2013, she was being starved even more and more, longest for 2 weeks straight. With neighbors only seeing Tiffany's kids, Imani was forced to stay in her room. They even removed her from school and told the school that she was switching to homeschool. Imani's aunt grew concerned and contacted child services, but concerns that went unanswered. On August 6, 2013, a tipster emailed a concern letter as well, but the agency claimed not to be able to locate the father or the stepmom for weeks to months. Imani continued to lose weight and was unable to even walk by October of 2013. Her body began to shut down that evening. The father returned from work, and Tiffany was panicking with Imani in the bathroom, going into shock on the bathroom floor. Imani will remain in her bed for 4 days after the bathroom incident. Iman, her dad, claimed to try and feed Imani, but the damage was already done. Iman claimed to have checked on Imani and she was fine. By October 28, 2013, Imani had succumbed to her neglect. And again, her stepmom, his wife, took control of the whole situation. Whereas though he didn't have a say-so in nothing regarding his daughter and what to do with his daughter, how to handle his daughter after her demise. After hearing about his daughter's death over the phone, he actually finished his shift at work, went home after the kids were playing and his wife was watching TV. Went home and the two children they have together were playing inside the house, and his wife was watching TV and said absolutely nothing. They then made a plan to make it like she ran away. He wanted all, but Tiffany wanted different. He wanted to call the police. They got to call these people. They got to call coroners. They got to call police, period. Tiffany said no. They proceeded to wrap this little girl in blankets and put her in their computer room. Then the father, making matters worse in this incident, left and went to his second job. While his daughter is rotting in a room in the house where they live. Days went by and her body laid in the house. They buy trash bags and other items to cremate Imani, but couldn't succeed. Even trying to place her into a trash can, with eventually succeeding in placing the trash can in the back of a trailer on his truck. On November 1st, they put the kids in the back seat with Imani in the trunk of the same vehicle, drove around for hours to find a hidden area, and left his own daughter, tried to leave his own daughter to burn, but didn't succeed in the fire. So he could go back to work, but Tiffany wanted him to bury her. He said no. For once, he said no. To make matters worse, he went to his second job, taking his deceased daughter that's in the trunk with him, and finishes his shift. With guilt eating him up for once about his daughter, he confided in a friend who told him to go to the police, but not until he finished his shift. Telling Tiffany, but she refused again, Tiffany drove off with their two children to her mom's house while Iman calls 911 and confesses.
Upset, she was just stressed. She was upset.
When Tiffany arrived at her mom's house, her first words were, "Don't let them take my children." Not what she had just done, but don't let them take my children. Tiffany soon turns herself in. Imani gives details on everything. By 2015, Iman pleads guilty to felony death and concealing a body in exchange for his testimony against his wife, and avoided the death penalty. Despite avoiding the death penalty without parole, he also made comments about ending his own life. Tiffany represented herself at trial without a plea. By April 29th, 2019, she was found guilty of multiple counts and was sentenced to death. She is now awaiting her execution in a state prison. So was this a father who failed his kid? Yes. Because at the end of the day, no matter how many jobs you have, no matter how hard you work, check your children. You already know how your wife get down. But you turned the blind eye to your only kid outside of the two you had. She's the oldest. And you turned your back on her. And you allow your wife to mistreat her that way. You come in, you go to work one morning, come in, spend some time, go back out to the second job. That time that you had in between both jobs should have been spent with your daughter to make sure she's okay. Not following the lead of a demon, because that's basically what she is. That's what the wife is to me, a demon. Because did you see her? She had no remorse for nothing. She didn't want to testify, of course, but you could see she had no remorse for what she did to that child. And it amazes me. But this case is definitely a case of you failed. You failed. And now she's gone. Your other two kids have to be raised by other people. Because you and your wife are going to jail. Prison. On to the next. Now our next story was highly publicized for the world to see. Because this one, we watch so much harm to these kids on our TV screens, on our YouTube screens, from Ruby Franke. And this story is about her husband, Kevin Franke, who failed his children. Was he a dad? Let's find out. So if you don't know who Kevin Franke is and Ruby Franke, they were the star, not even the stars. They were basically the camera people, and their kids were the stars of their YouTube channel, 8 Passengers. We watched a lot happen on 8 Passengers while they were on YouTube. And Ruby, his wife, was the cause of a whole lot of what I'm about to tell you. And Mr. Kevin Franke let a whole lot of stuff slide. He was definitely not protecting his children. he let a woman control the household. Well, he made money. Before the show even started, he was the money maker. He was the man of the house. But he allowed his wife to take over because she started making most of the money in the house by exploiting her kids on YouTube. So let's get into Mr. Kevin Frankie. So the YouTube sensation 8 Passengers was started years ago by Ruby and Mr. Kevin Frankie, following the everyday life of them and their 6 kids. Her kids was the entertainment that grew her following on all platforms, mainly YouTube. But after a while of the Big Happy Family videos, the Frankie house began to get dark, with Kevin giving all control to Ruby. At one point, you could see Ruby refusing to take her youngest daughter a lunch to school, and her refusing anyone from giving a ultimatum, like basically saying don't give her a meal. She forgot to pack her lunch. 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old. She forgot to pack her lunch. She told me she packed her lunch. If she don't have a lunch, then she's out of luck, basically. At this time, people were watching more and more and started to feel away, as they should. At one point, she made her youngest son do push-ups for leaving his socks outside.
They're not supposed to be out. Shape your hands forward. There you go.
It didn't stop there, of course. There's a lot more. But then her oldest son lost his bedroom privileges. Because he played a harmless prank on his little brother by telling them they were going to Disneyland. And a slew of other things he done.
Taken away for 7 months and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October.
Chad came home from Anasazi and
Russell was like, I want to try junking the basketball, and I lifted him up on the rim. And left him there. We shot 3 minutes, and he was just hanging on there.
Do you think it's funny? Because
and then I walk out.
If you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
Mind you, the same little boy she's taking up for now is the same little boy she had outside doing push-ups because he left his socks outside. And where was Dad? Where was Mr. Frankie? Dad was there. Dad was there, but Dad did nothing. Nothing. He's supposed to be a protector. Dad did nothing. After some time, multiple petitions went up against the 8 Passenger channel. Another incident happened when a young girl taped her doll's mouth shut, and Ruby threatened to do the same to her. Now, multiple people behind the scenes also grew concerned. People she knew personally actually argued with Ruby, and multiple calls also went out from Ruby's oldest daughter, Sherry, whose book I just finished reading not too long ago. About her siblings, young siblings, being left home alone for at least 4 days at a time. But of course, those went unanswered. By 2012, Ruby and Frankie had stopped posting on their YouTube channel. So many petitions, like I said, went out for this channel. People started to really grow concerned more and more about their children and their family. And the fact that she knew she was doing wrong because she ended the YouTube channel. It's crazy. And here comes Miss Jodi Hildebrandt. Jodi was a licensed mental health counselor in Utah. Ruby and Kevin hired her to counsel their oldest son with her company Connections, in which Ruby begins working for Jodi and pushing her husband away in the process.
Person who comes forward about Jodi Hildebrandt.
She strips you of identity, she strips you of credibility, she isolates. And so she's saying everything that you say is a lie. Everything that you say is manipulation. You're lying and destroying.
Licensed mental health counselor, whereas though after a while of counseling their son, she moved in to their house. What? Listen, that's weird off the back, okay? What counselor who's supposed to be counseling your kid, one of your kids, moves in with you, guys? What? Like, that was a red flag right then and there that something else was going on. And if you read Sherry Frankie's book, The House of My Mother, you know what I'm talking about. If you have not read it, please go read it, because it's a lot. It explains a whole lot of why this woman moved into these people's house as their mental health counselor for their son. Okay. So again I ask, where's Dad? Where's Mr. Kevin Frankie doing all this? Well, after some time, Jody encouraged Ruby and Kevin that it would be best if he moved out to get himself together because of the issues Ruby felt he needed to work on. Around this time, Jody has, of course, moved into the Frankie house. At this point, again, Jody, before Kevin even moves out, he has some words to say about after some time of Jody living in their home. She started to speak these demonic things and eyes rolling back in her head and just saying off the wall things. And it was at one point Kevin says, she allegedly says, she's mine, referring to Ruby. At one point, Kevin was forced out of his bedroom and forced to sleep elsewhere in the house, while Jody is sleeping in the oldest girl's room, Sherry. I'm confused on how a mental health counselor work, these days. Like, is it me? Or is this a weird situation? And the fact that he thought it was okay to just be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to move out of my room, my bedroom, with my wife, and sleep in another room because a mental health counselor came and told me to. After some time, Kevin Franklin actually moved out. And for a whole year, he went without seeing and talking to his children, the remaining 4 children. Now, at this point, of course, Jody is everybody's counselor. Everybody in the Frankie house, Jody is the counselor. Jody is in charge, basically. It was even said that Jody referred Mr. Kevin to join men's groups to basically help his marriage. He was told how bad he was, how he needed to repent and downgraded. He was just belittled, basically, in his words. At this point, after some time of him being gone, he has no idea, because he has decided to let a woman come in and tell him he has to move out and can't have no interactions with his own children and his wife. And his wife goes along with it. Now, a lot of people would say this is a control of Jody to this family. But when does it click into the father and says, no, I'm the head of this house. Well, I'm trying to be the head of the house because Ruby has taken that over. But she allows someone else to come in and take over. Over top of the 2 parents in the house. You allow this woman that you just met, that's supposed to be counseling your oldest son and now counseling the whole entire family, to move your husband out of the house, and you allow her as the man to tell you that you got to move out and work on yourself for a whole entire year and can't have no communication with your own children. Mind you, by this time, the 2 oldest ones is gone. So it's only the 4 youngest ones left. So on August 30th, 2023, their youngest son escapes Jody's house and runs to a neighbor's for help. As the neighbor calls for help, you can clearly hear the hurt in his voice as he looks and examines this little boy, because at this point, these kids are being starved. They are being mistreated by Jody and Ruby. even further by Ruby because she had already started. Jody came in and made it worse.
Okay, and the phone number you're calling from? Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
Okay. Is your door locked?
No, I'm sitting outside with him on the front patio.
Okay, cool.
And he asked us to call the police. I mean, his wrist as well. Okay, this boy has been... This kid has obviously been... I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
So you can clearly hear the pain, like I said, in this neighbor's voice. Now, this is a neighbor of Jody's. At this point, Jody and Ruby has had these two younger kids doing ungodly things. They had them outside in this is Utah. They had them outside in the sun, cleaning up with no shoes on their feet. They had them eating bits and pieces of food, not even giving them full meals. It's disturbing. So what human being wouldn't feel away when they see a child the age that this child is, skin and bone, hungry, thirsty, clearly it's been mistreated. It blows me. And that blows my mind is always going to be coming out of my mouth with cases like this because it blows my mind. But let's continue. So I'm not going to add too many videos in this because I could basically tell you what happens at this point. So, of course, after the police is called, the child is picked up. They go to Jody's house and retrieve the young sister, who is also skin and bones. Whereas though she eats 2 whole pizzas in a matter of minutes because she's so hungry. They literally had to spend time, sit down. One of the paramedics literally had to sit down in the room where she was being kept and talk to her and talk her into eating because evidently they so terrified to eat anything without the permission of the people around them that's supposed to love them. So after Ruby and Jody is taken into custody, they reach out and finds that the 2 other children that's older than the youngest ones that's just been found are at another member of Connections' house. But I think it's the president of Connections. I'm not going to show that video because that's obviously long as hell. But the president of Connections, where Jody is a mental health counselor, has the 2 other girls. She was asked to pick them up by Ruby because of what was going on at Jody's house with the 2 younger kids, with the little boy escaping and the police and all that stuff. So after Ruby and Jody is taken into custody, it was time to interview and inform Kevin of everything he did not hear from Ruby because evidently she called him after the little boy escaped or the police was called and stuff like that. She contacted Kevin after a whole year of not talking to him. She contacts him. After hearing everything the cops had to say about the condition of his children, Kevin was still willing to stand by Ruby. At one point during the jail conversations between Kevin and Ruby, he tells Ruby he still loves her. As that's his wife. It's been a long time, okay? And will stand by her through all of it until sometime later when Kevin decides to file for divorce, 3 months after the incident with his young children. Based on the order from the 4th District Juvenile Court, Kevin was given full custody of the 4 young children, and Ruby is ordered to have no contact with the children. Ruby and Jody are currently serving a time of 4 sentences of 1 to 15 years in prison. In the divorce, Kevin received their Springville home they shared together with a 2.8 acre in Carbon County. Also, child support and other accounts except the 85 grand Ruby supposedly withdrew when she stopped living with Kevin. Well, when they departed, when they made him leave, okay? They are now divorced. So that was the last story of this news I wanted to report to you guys. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Let me know, do you think that these were the father figures of the world? Because I honestly believe they could have done much better. They could have done much better. Hopefully, prayerfully, Mr. Frankie could get himself together and keep that tight hold on his remaining kids and protect them way more than he did when they were living together the first time with Ruby and with Jody. The first story, sadly, cannot be fixed. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. And I thank you all again for watching. Please subscribe to the channel because this is not the only story. I have a whole lot of other stories. And I would like your opinion on it. But please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe because I can't get my words out. I'm just so... Telling those two stories just really broke me, okay? But I'm trying to get my words out. But yes, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to hit that like button because I'm coming back. And it's crazy the stories I have. Bye.